Hello, everybody. It's me, Cranky Hornhelm. Yeah, I know. Deal with the name. I'm back today to talk to you about a very important subject, and that is what's not to like about fighters. Specifically in, like, Dungeons and Dragons. Well, what's not to like about fighters? Very little. Fighters are the backbone of Dungeons and Dragons. And most fantasy games that have fighters, they play an integral part in the game. Well, why not? Think about it in Dungeons and Dragons. And this is no dragon caca, because in the original Dungeons and Dragons, when you created a character, it was 3 six-sided dice, and you had to fill the slots in order. So if your first roll was a 7, that was your strength. If your next roll was a 15, that was your intelligence. None of this roll 4 die and throw one out, or roll an extra set, put them wherever you want. None of that. So you know what happened, folks? There were a lot of fighters. If you played First Principles and you got together with some friends to have an adventure and you rolled up characters, probably about 70% of the time, you were going to end up being a fighter. That is no orc caca. That's the straight scoop. So fighters were the backbone of Dungeons and Dragons. Fighters did most of the hard work, most of the heavy lifting, both figuratively and literally. And that was because there were so many of them. They had more hit points on average. They usually had better weapons and sometimes better armor. And if you were good enough to be better than a fighter, well, then you just chose a different character class when you started. And really, fighters were the best at what they did. They were better in hand-to-hand combat than somebody like a thief or a magic user. And clerics were decent at that. But in the early days of D&D, there wasn't a lot of preference to play clerics. That kind of came through experience. But fighters, because there were so many of them right from the very start when you first started playing the game, well, of course, there were fighters everywhere. Because it was pretty hard to get the stats to be something else. So what's not to like about fighters? Well, I don't know of very many groups that are going to be successful if they don't have some good quality fighters with them. I can't recall any. Yes, I mean, I know there's adventures that are slanted for all thieves and rogues or magic users of various kinds. I understand that, but that's not what the average game was. And in an average game, you usually had about half of the people participating being fighters, or at least being multi-classed and being fighter something else or something else fighter. Fighter is probably the most useful class in all of Dungeons and Dragons. No, you can't cast spells. But you can use a lot of items. And you can drink potions. Or use potions. And yes, you can't heal. But once again, you can use potions. And use items. Fighters definitely work best in a group that has various talents. But the other talents aren't going to get very far without fighters. That's no dragon caca. I mean, I'm here to give you the straight scoop. And I wouldn't want to be in a party that didn't have fighters. Now, of course, as dwarves, we really enjoy fighters because that's what most of us tend to do. And, I mean, the Dwarven army is legendary, for good reason. But the reality is that if you are out there as a fighter, you're carrying the burden of everything on your shoulders because you're what makes it successful. And that is the straight scoop. So that's what I think about fighters. What's not to like about fighters? Really nothing. Even evil ones at least are true to their cause. Fighters are what makes parties successful. So like I said, that's the straight scoop. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, do that like and subscribe and share and all that kind of good stuff. Hope you enjoyed. If you didn't, oh well. And remember to come back and see us. Something like that. We'll see y'all soon. And remember that dwarves rock, yeah, especially me.